Imagine waking up every morning knowing that you are the king of the world. You have the private jets, the mansions in Palm Beach, and the trust of the most powerful people on earth. Imagine losing it all in a single heartbeat. On December 11, 2008, the FBI didn't just arrest a man, they arrested a myth. This is the story of Bernie Madoff, the man who pulled off the biggest financial magic trick in history. He stole $64 billion, destroyed 40,000 lives. And the scariest part is that he did it right under everyone's nose. Welcome to the Money Files. To understand the crime, we first have to understand the genius. Because before he was a villain, Bernie Madoff was a hero. He wasn't just some random scammer from the internet. He was Wall Street royalty. He was the chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange and the man who helped build the modern stock market. If you were rich in New York and wanted to stay rich, you gave your money to Bernie. In fact, you couldn't just give him money, you had to be invited. It was the ultimate exclusive club, and once you were in, you never wanted to leave. While the rest of the market crashed and burned, Bernie's returns were perfect. Too perfect. Month after month, year after year, the line only went up. He was consistent, he was quiet, and he was safe. Or at least that's what they thought. Bernie told the world he was using a highly complex trading strategy called split strike conversion. He claimed to buy blue-chip stocks and protect them with options to guarantee a profit no matter what the market did. It sounded smart, sophisticated, and exclusive. Investors didn't ask too many questions because they were too busy counting their profits. But it was all a masterclass in illusion. Madoff's firm operated out of the famous Lipstick Building in Manhattan. The legitimate trading business was on the 19th floor, buzzing with traders and technology. But the fraud lived on the 17th floor. Access to the 17th floor was strictly restricted. The windows were covered with blinds, and an ancient IBM computer sat in the corner. This computer wasn't connected to the stock market, it was a fabrication machine. For decades, Bernie Madoff didn't invest a single penny of the billions entrusted to him. There were no stocks. There were no options. He simply took money from new investors and used it to pay the returns to old investors. It was a classic Ponzi scheme, but on a scale the world had never seen before. He was printing fake account statements, showing millions of dollars in profits that simply did not exist. As long as the money kept flowing in, the machine kept running, and the lie remained alive. While Bernie was charming the world, there was one man who wasn't buying it. His name was Harry Markopolos, a brilliant mathematician and financial analyst. In 1999, a colleague asked Harry to reverse engineer Madoff's strategy so they could copy it. Harry looked at the numbers, and within 5 minutes he knew something was wrong. Within 4 hours, he had proved it mathematically. Madoff's returns were impossible. The market goes up and down, but Madoff's line went straight up at a 45-degree angle. It didn't exist in nature. Harry realized there were only two possibilities. Either Madoff was cheating the system, or it was a massive Ponzi scheme. Terrified, but determined, Harry took his detailed evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC), the police of Wall Street. He warned them in 2000, 2001, 2005, and again in 2008. He handed them the fraud on a silver platter, titling his report "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." But because Bernie was a legend and Harry was a nobody, the regulators ignored him. They didn't even bother to verify if the trades were real. If they had listened, billions of dollars could have been saved. For decades, Madoff survived because the market was stable. But the perfect storm arrived in late 2008. The housing bubble burst, Lehman Brothers collapsed, and the global economy went into freefall. Panic spread across Wall Street like a virus. For the first time, Madoff's investors didn't care about making a profit. They just wanted their cash back. The phones at the Lipstick Building started ringing and didn't stop. Big clients, hedge funds, and charities sent withdrawal requests, totaling over $7 billion immediately.
Ow.
Bernie tried to scramble. He tried to raise money from wealthy friends. He tried to get loans, but the liquidity had dried up everywhere. He checked the firm's Chase bank account, and the reality was a nightmare. On paper, his statements showed the world that he managed $64 billion. In reality, the bank account held barely $200 million. The math no longer worked. The pyramid was collapsing, and there were no more blocks left to hold it up. By December 10, 2008, Bernie knew there was no way out. The company holiday party was held that night, but the atmosphere was like a funeral. Madoff was visibly stressed, barely speaking to anyone. Later that evening, he called his two sons, Mark and Andrew, and his brother Peter, to his penthouse apartment. His sons, who worked on the legitimate side of the business, thought their father was dying, or that the company was having a bad quarter. They sat down, expecting bad news, but they were not prepared for the truth. Bernie looked at them and calmly dropped the bomb. He told them that the investment advisory business, the crown jewel of the family empire, was a complete fraud. He uttered the now famous words, "It's all just one big lie." He admitted that he was finished, that he had absolutely nothing left, and that the losses were around $50 billion. Mark and Andrew were stunned into silence. Their entire lives, their careers, and their reputation were built on a fiction. Realizing that they were now accomplices to the biggest crime in history, the sons stood up and walked out. They didn't go home to cry. They went straight to a lawyer, and then they called the FBI. The next morning, December 11th, the FBI knocked on the door of his penthouse. Bernie Madoff opened it, standing there in his pajamas. He was calm. He didn't fight. He knew it was over. But for his victims, the nightmare was just beginning. The news sent shockwaves around the globe. It wasn't just billionaires who lost money. It was teachers, farmers, and retirees who had trusted him with their life savings. Charities were wiped out overnight. Nobel Peace Prize winner Elie Wiesel lost everything. The despair was so deep and the shame so unbearable that some investors, and tragically even Bernie's own son Mark, took their own lives. The devastation was total. In 2009, Madoff stood before Judge Denny Chin in a packed courtroom. The judge called his crimes extraordinarily evil and showed absolutely no mercy. He sentenced Bernie to the maximum possible term, 150 years in prison. It was a symbolic death sentence. The man who had lived in ultimate luxury spent the rest of his days in a small cell. Bernie Madoff died in a prison hospital in 2021 at the age of 82, alone and hated. He left behind a legacy of destruction that will never be forgotten. Bernie's gone, but the system that created him is still here. The greed, the blind trust, the lack of oversight, it hasn't really changed. Wall Street is still Wall Street. So, the uncomfortable question remains, could it happen again? Is your money actually safe? Or is the next Bernie Madoff already out there, smiling and waiting for the next crash? If you want to uncover the dark truth about money, make sure to subscribe to the Money Files. See you in the next one.